Winter, 1922. At a remote farm in Germany, a man steps outside and notices footprints in the snow. They lead from the forest straight to his house. But something makes him stop. The footprints do not return to the forest. There are only footprints coming in, none going out. A few days later, the entire family living in that house is found dead. The farm was called Hinterkaifeck. It stood in the open fields of Bavaria, Germany, a quiet place, isolated. The nearest neighbors lived almost a kilometer away. 6 people lived on that farm. Andreas Gruber, the owner, his wife, Cecilia Gruber, their daughter, Victoria Gabriel, 2 young children, Cecilia, 7 years old, and Joseph, only 2, and a maid, Maria Baumgartner. Life at Hinterkaifeck was not very different from other farms in the region. Cold mornings started early. The cows needed to be fed. The barn needed cleaning. The fields needed care. A quiet life, repeating day after day. At first, everything seemed normal, but then strange things began to happen. Andreas Gruber noticed it first. One morning, as he stepped outside, he saw a line of footprints in the snow. They came from the forest behind the farm and led straight to the house. Andreas stared at them for a long time. Then he realized something that made no sense. There were no footprints leading away, only footprints leading in. He told his neighbors about it, but at the time, no one believed it meant anything serious. Maybe a traveler passing through, maybe a hunter crossing the land. But the strange events did not stop. At night, the Gruber family began hearing sounds from the attic, footsteps. Slow, heavy, as if someone was walking above them. Several times, Andreas climbed up to check, but every time he opened the attic door, there was no one, only dust and darkness. Not long after, he found a newspaper he had never bought. No one in the family knew where it came from. Then another thing happened. The house key suddenly disappeared. These events frightened the previous maid. Eventually, she left the farm, saying the house was haunted. Soon after, a new maid arrived. Her name was Maria Baumgartner. The day she arrived would also become the last day of her life. Just a few days later, something strange began to draw the attention of the neighbors. No one had seen the Gruber family for days. Smoke no longer rose from the chimney. The children did not go to school. The family also did not appear at Sunday church service. But what worried people the most were the animals. The cows kept crying inside the barn for days. On April 1st, 2 coffee merchants, Hans and Edward Sharofsky, came to the farm to collect an order. They knocked on the door, but no one answered. They walked around the yard, but saw no one. Only the engine room door was open. On the morning of April 4th, a local mechanic named Albert Hoffner arrived at the farm to repair a machine engine. He waited for more than an hour, but no one appeared. Eventually, he repaired the machine by himself for nearly 4.5 hours. During that time, he later said he heard nothing except the animals inside the barn. Later that afternoon, around 3:30 p.m., Lawrence Schlittenbauer decided to check the farm. He first sent his 2 sons ahead. When they returned and said they could not find anyone, Schlittenbauer and 2 neighbors walked toward Hinterkaifeck. When they arrived, the barn gate was locked. They had to break the gate to enter, and the moment they stepped inside, they saw a scene none of them would ever forget. 4 bodies lying together in the straw. Andreas Gruber, his wife Cecilia, their daughter Victoria, and little Cecilia, 7 years old. All of them had been struck in the head with a heavy weapon. Later, investigators concluded the weapon was most likely a mattock, a farming tool commonly used on rural land. The wounds showed powerful blows directly to the skull. But something else about the scene felt strange. The bodies were not scattered. They were lying on top of one another, as if each person had walked into the barn one by one and was attacked right there. One person, then the next, almost as if someone had lured them outside during the night. After discovering the 4 bodies in the barn, the neighbors entered the house. Inside, they found the remaining 2 victims. Maria Baumgartner, the new maid, lying dead in a bedroom, and Josef, only 2 years old, found in his cradle. 6 people, all dead. The next day, police from Munich arrived at Hinterkaifeck to investigate. Forensic doctors began examining the bodies inside the barn. The results revealed a disturbing truth. All of the victims had been struck in the head with the same weapon, a mattock. One detail deeply disturbed the investigators. Little Cecilia may not have died immediately. During the examination, doctors discovered clumps of hair torn from her head, as if in her final moments, the child regained consciousness and in panic began pulling at her own hair. After the examination, the skulls of the victims were sent to Munich for further analysis. But during World War II, those skulls were lost, and to this day, no one knows what happened to them. While investigators continued examining the farm, another detail sent chills through them. The cows had been fed, milk had been collected, water in the troughs had been replaced, the barn had been cleaned. Inside the kitchen, all the bread had been eaten. Several pieces of meat had been cut from the storage room, and the stove inside the house had clearly been used, which could mean only one thing. After killing the entire family, the killer did not leave. Someone stayed inside the Hinterkaifeck farm for several days, sleeping in that house, eating in that kitchen, walking through the same rooms where 6 people had just been murdered. Some witnesses later recalled even stranger details. On the night of April 1st, around 3 a.m., a farmer named Simon Reislander was walking home near the forest beside the farm. He noticed 2 figures standing at the edge of the woods. When they realized someone was passing by, both figures turned away as if to avoid being recognized. The following night, a craftsman named Michael Pleckel happened to pass the farm. He saw smoke coming from the chimney. Someone was burning a fire inside the house. Then, suddenly, a person stepped outside holding a lantern. The bright light shone directly into his face. Pleckel became frightened and quickly left the farm. He later said the smoke coming from the stove had a terrible smell, but by that time, the Gruber family was already believed to be dead.
after discovering the bodies in the barn, Lawrence Schlittenbauer did something many people later found suspicious. He did not break the door to enter the house. Instead, he used a key to unlock the front door and walked inside alone. That key was believed to be the same key that had disappeared from the house a few days before the murders. When investigators later asked him why he entered the house alone while no one knew if the killer might still be inside, Schlittenbauer gave a simple answer. He said he went inside to look for Josef.
In the days that followed, police from Munich arrived to begin a full investigation. But from the very beginning, serious mistakes were made. News of the murders spread quickly through the surrounding villages. Soon, hundreds of curious people arrived at the farm. They walked through the barn, through the house, touching objects, moving things. Some of them even cooked food in the kitchen of the murdered family. By the time investigators tried to secure the scene, many important clues had already been destroyed. At first, police believed the murders might have been a robbery, but inside the house, they found something strange. Money was still there, more than 2,000 gold and silver coins, jewelry untouched. Nothing had been stolen, which raised an unsettling question. If it wasn't for money, why kill an entire family? Over the years, many suspects were investigated, but none were ever charged. One of the most discussed names was Lawrence Schlittenbauer, the neighbor who helped discover the bodies. He had once been romantically involved with Victoria Gabriel. At one time, many people believed he might even be the father of little Josef. Some investigators found his behavior that day unusual. He entered the house alone, using a key that had disappeared days before the murders. Still, no evidence ever proved his involvement. Another theory involved Karl Gabriel, Victoria's husband. He had been declared dead during World War I, but his body was never found. Some people believed he might have survived the war and later returned home. If that were true, he may have discovered the secrets inside the Gruber family and sought revenge. But again, no evidence ever confirmed this theory. Other suspects included drifters, farm workers, and even wandering criminals, but none of those leads ever solved the case. In 1923, only 1 year after the murders, the Hinterkaifeck farm was torn down. The buildings were destroyed. Today, nothing remains of the house where the murders took place. Only a small memorial stands near the site, and the questions remain. Who left those footprints in the snow that morning? Who walked across the attic during those nights? And who stayed inside that house for days after everyone was already dead? More than 100 years have passed, yet the murders of Hinterkaifeck remain one of the most chilling, unsolved mysteries in German history.